so nice to see so many faces, some familiar, some completely new. As we're getting settled in and perhaps admitting a couple more people, I just want to say thank you for coming to this chat that we're having today on using the compass in the primary years. Before we get started, since we have a bit larger group here, I'd like to just do a little wave if activity. So if you could put your videos on gallery so you can see each other, and if you don't mind turning on your camera for just a minute. If you don't have your camera on, you can use the reactions on your Zoom to kind of wave if something is true for you as we get to know each other. So I'm Gitanjali, by the way, just to let you know who I am. And when I say something, if it's true for you, just wave at the camera. So wave if you are a teacher. Okay. Wave if you work in primary school. Wave if you work internationally, so not in your home country. Wave if you work in the town where you grew up. Nice. Wave if you're familiar with the sustainability compass already. Okay. Wave if you've taken a workshop where you've seen the sustainability compass. Okay. Wave if you've done our online level 1 course. And then just wave if you're excited to get some more ideas for how you can use the sustainability compass today. Awesome. Okay, good. I hope you're very excited for that because that is why we are all here. So just to recap, in case you need a little reminder of what we're talking about today, we're going to start off with a brief story from the amazing Kath Lane about using the compass in the primary years and some of her experience. But then our goal is to open up to kind of a chat about other ways you've used it, examples you might want to share, questions you have, and we can try to stay focused on using the compass with those primary age learners. But if you have other general questions as well about systems thinking, the sustainability compass, or other related topics, feel free to bring those up. Please unmute yourself as you'd like throughout the call to ask questions. You also can use the reactions or the raise hand feature or the chat. I'll keep checking it while Kath is talking. And before we get started, since several of you said you are new to the Sustainability Compass or newer, just a very quick recap of what it's all about. So Compass Education, who Kath and I work with, is a sustainability education nonprofit that is trying to put systems thinking tools into the hands of students and educators around the world to help us all develop sustainable habits of mind and feel like we can not only learn deeply and think deeply, but act to create a more sustainable world. And the main tool we're talking about today, which we love, is the Sustainability Compass, which is a guide for helping us take action and learn and teach for that sustainable world, which has 4 dimensions: nature, economy, society, and well-being. These on this slide are what we're kind of aiming for, the systemic conditions that we're trying to create by thinking about these dimensions. So for nature, trying to live within the Earth's biological and physical limits and regenerating our systems. For economy, thinking about creating an inclusive, innovative, and carbon neutral economy that supports all people. For society, thinking about social cohesion, thinking about engagement, justice, and development. And of course, we also want to include individual well-being, thinking about fulfillment, opportunity, health, and happiness. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and stop talking and focus on introducing Kath, who is why we are here sharing stories today. Kath Lane is a remarkable educator that I've been lucky enough to work with for about 7 years now. Wow. Yeah. And she's been working with Compass all of that time, but she's a primary educator currently based in the UK who's also taught around Asia at schools like the Green School in Bali and the United World College in Singapore. And I'm going to hand it over to Kath to start us off talking about her experiences.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Great to be with you all. So I'm just going to make a start by sharing some things that I've done with kids over the years. And please, as Gitanjali said, chip in with any questions or ideas you might have. We were just talking before you all came on, let's keep it really kind of informal and chatty. So yeah, I've been using the compass for about 7 years. I work in usually upper junior type classes, primary classes, but I've also led all the grades from kindergarten up to grade 5 with kind of environmental stewardship and sustainability initiatives in my schools. So yeah, I'll just start. I think one of the things that is really important with primary grades, and actually all the way up the grades and into adulthood, is stories. And I think that's a really great way to get into the compass and using the compass tool. So I don't know if any of you guys have read The Mousel Cat. Wave if you know it. Okay, so it's a fantastic it's a fantastic story. It's beautifully illustrated as well, a really good one to share with your class of any age. My 3-year-old nephew loves it, and I've also used it with grade 5 kids as well. So it's a really great example of a picture book that's that can kind of go up through the grades. I'm just going to share my screen here, and then you'll get to see did that work?
Yes, it did. Yep.
Great. So this is one of the illustrations. It's just really, really beautiful. And it's a Christmas story. I'll just give you a very quick summary. It's basically about Mauser, the cat, who lives with her human, and he provides a very good life for her and a lovely community. And then one Christmas time, the storm cat comes into town. They live in a seaside town, and he prevents the fishing boats from leaving the harbour. And so nobody can catch any fish, and everybody starts to get very desperate. And so eventually Mauser and her human, Tom, decide that they have to go out and try and catch fish by calming the storm cat down. And so Mauser, they go out on their boat, and Mauser starts to sing to the great storm cat. And I don't know if you can see here, she kind of lulls the storm cat into calming down a bit, enough so that they can go and catch fish for the community. And they come back, and they realize as they come back in the evening after a long day of fishing that the community has been worried about them, and they've put lights out on the harbour to light their way back into the harbour. And so this is like my favourite Christmas story. I'm based down in where this story happens, and I read it every year to my class. But this particular year, I decided I wanted to dig a bit deeper. We'd been working on themes in our reading workshop. And so we dug a bit deeper into this story, and we used the compass to do that. So the children thought about the story, and hopefully you can see this lovely scrappy bit of note taking that the children did in groups. They thought about the story using the compass. And what had appeared to be just a very lovely tale of a cat turned out to be a story of kind of community coming together, with all the elements of the compass being used. And so they had the nature, the fish, the storm, and the impact that was then having on the society, the lack of food, and that had a knock-on effect on the economy. They couldn't sell their fish, they couldn't buy other food, and then obviously that was having this impact on their well-being as well in the story. And you can see that the children started to draw those arrows around the compass, and that was basically making their discussion visible. They were talking about how, oh yeah, because they couldn't have any food, they couldn't sell anything, they couldn't buy anything, they were feeling hungry, that's going to impact their well-being. And then they talked about how at the end, everybody comes together to celebrate with a big fish feast. So just using the compass allowed them to think from different perspectives and allowed them to think about the story at a much deeper level. And you can see this, this area here, the little box, they were trying to think about the theme of the story, because that was what we were working on in our English lessons. And what they actually came up with was our profile. For those people who work in PYP schools, or they're the dispositions that we as a school were trying to work towards. They actually realized, oh, in this story, this community are working on their profile, they're working on their skills and qualities. And yeah, I was just really happy with how they got to these kind of lofty concepts through this very simple Christmas story that we did on a very noisy kind of afternoon just before we broke up for Christmas. So that was one example of using the compass that I thought I would share with you, and I think stories are a really great way in. For those, some of you may have come across this book. Let me stop the share. May have come across this book by Linda Booth Sweeney. It is a really great book with lots of great examples of using stories for different systems thinking. So not specifically compass related, but really a useful resource if you want to start to think about stories. Before I move on to the next thing I was going to share, has anybody got any questions about how I use the compass with those particular students or that particular story?
I was wondering, what kind of questions do you ask the children to facilitate this? Because since it's, I mean, we are discussing it over here, so yes, nature, economy, society, well-being, that goes, that's easy for us to understand. But what would be the questions that you would ask the students to facilitate this?
That's such a good point. Yeah, these students were familiar with the compass already. So we'd introduce this at the beginning of the academic year. So they could go straight into using the compass tool, and they knew that they were all talking the same language. And I think that's a really important thing to do with your students before you use the compass for a specific topic, is making sure that they all have a shared understanding of the different compass points. And obviously that's going to be different at different age ranges. For your younger kids, you're going to use maybe slightly different language to your older kids when you're talking about the different compass points and why we're using the compass. So if you were going to do a lesson with a story, you might want to spend a pre-lesson to just talk through how the compass works. So if you think about the full compass point with young kids, for nature, you're going to be talking about plants, animals, water, soil. They normally get nature pretty easily. Economy for little ones is going to be money, shopping, jobs, factories, those kind of things. Society, you're talking to the kids about groups of people making decisions together, things being fair, people having equal amounts of things, rules and guidelines, those kind of things. And then for well-being, you're basically talking about being healthy, being happy, and what is needed for those to be healthy and happy. And it's surprising how quickly kids go, yeah, we get it. They kind of understand that connected way of thinking, I think, a lot better than adults do sometimes. They see those connections much more easily because that's what their world is like. That's what primary school is like for them, that everything is connected up. Any more questions? No? Shall I carry on? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. That wasn't very successful. That's better. And I think the other point to say about using stories is it doesn't have to be, this was a grade 5 class, it doesn't have to be writing. You could have them draw this, or you could have them go and fetch objects or stick pictures down, you know, cut pictures out and stick them down. It doesn't have to be a written piece of work. It could just be a conversation that you have and you scribe, or that they, you know, different, just like anything with primary school, you kind of adapt it to suit the students you have in front of you. So this is the other thing that I wanted to share, which is a project that my colleagues and I at UWC worked on with grade 5 again. We introduced the idea of community, particularly our school community, right at the beginning of the year. And that was when we also introduced the compass. And so they use the compass to think about their own community. And we started off by just having them write down their thoughts about their school community as a kind of assessment piece, like what did they know from the start? How were they thinking from different perspectives already? And then this then kind of opened up really great inquiry questions. So we started our inquiry into our community by using the compass to instigate questions. So when they first thought about their community, the economy side was absolutely blank. Bearing in mind it was a fee-paying school with a canteen and a shop, but it just wasn't in their world. They hadn't really thought about it. So it led to all these really great questions. They also hadn't really thought about well-being, apart from they did kind of think about the nurse, the school nurse, as well-being, but otherwise they hadn't really thought about it. And nature, they thought it about, you know, the trees in the playground, and that was about it. So things were very basic in terms of community, but society was really strong. So they had an unbalanced looking compass at the beginning. And so this generated all these questions, and then the photos that you can see is they're going around interviewing people, talking to people. So they went to this one here, they went to the counsellors department and chatted to the school counsellor. They went to the library, they talked to operations staff, and they found out lots of information through going and talking and interviewing and collecting data. They went and talked to the shop, and they went and talked to the council, the department, you know, the admin departments, who told them about the fees that were coming into the school and how that money was shared out. So it turned into this massive brain dump of information that just made them think in a more complex, multi-perspective way about their own community. So this was just, we did all of this in the first 3 weeks of the school year. And then we kept returning to our community through our different units throughout that year. So we did a unit on peace, we did a unit on energy, and we did a unit on biodiversity. And every time we would come back to our community compass and see if we could add some more information. And then the kind of culmination of that year, we came back to the idea of community again for their grade 5 exhibition. And they used the compass and looking at their community and what they wanted to improve about their community as the focus of their grade 5 exhibition. So although it's just this simple little kind of cross on a piece of paper, it generated this whole year of learning across the grade. And one of the great things about this was they took that tool up with them to middle school. And then, you know, we're asking to use it to think about things in their middle school classes as well, which I thought was really cool. So that's my second one that I wanted to share with you, that it kind of was drip fed throughout the year. And surprisingly, they didn't get compass fatigue. They just saw it as an ongoing project.
That's awesome, Kath. Thank you so much for sharing about the book and about your year-long project. I'd love to open it up to more questions for Kath, and also kind of just open this up to be more of a chat and see if anyone else has examples or questions or just talking points about the compass and using it in primary years. So why don't we switch back to gallery view, and feel free to just unmute yourself and ask questions or share.
I wonder, did your fifth graders sort of delve into like community being Singapore? Like, did they go beyond their school, or was it just school community that you were?
That's such a good question. They kind of started with school, but then had this kind of aha moment of, oh, but our school is not this bubble that's unconnected to the local community. So actually it did grow out from there. So we started with school, and then as they had this realization of, oh, I'm really interested in, we had one group who were really interested in plastic waste, but then they realized, oh no, we need to talk to the people who collect our plastic waste. We need to talk to the people beyond our school community. So yeah, it was really, really interesting that they have that understanding then that our school system is nested somewhere.
Then is that a great, it's a great tool for the PYP, like I guess the grade 5 exhibition, right?
Yeah. And it was really cool for our exhibition because they'd had this practice with the tool. Like I could step back and they were picking up that tool and kind of using it for whatever their topic was for their exhibition, which was, and so it became this, you know, how the dream is that a grade 5 exhibition is this totally independent inquiry. That is what happened, but only because they'd had that scaffolding and practice and guided inquiries kind of through the year.
Yeah, I think if you just introduce it at grade 5, it's obviously going to be a new tool, but if they've had it as part of their units coming up through the school, it just becomes second nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that it was around our school, you know, the kids were aware of the compass even before we introduced it, because it's up on walls and they just saw it around, and so it was part of the language of the school anyway, which was kind of cool.
Kind of tying to that, Kath, what if you're, you know, trying to use the compass for the first time with students and they've had no exposure to it, and you just want to see, you know, how they interact with it? Do you have any suggestions for working with students when they're first exposed to it?
I think it depends on the age of the kids, but you know, for really little ones, you might want to do something that's a bit more modeled. So you're building maybe a compass together, but with older kids, I think probably from grade 2 upwards, if you ask them, what do you understand by nature, what do you understand by economy, that they come up with something, and just a shared experience of talking about what do these words mean, and going and, you know, getting some magazines and cutting them up and putting them into the different sections. It doesn't have to be a really long deep dive into it and, you know, lots of new vocabulary. They actually know a lot of the vocabulary already. It's just putting them into those sections. Another way that I've done it with grade 5 or middle schoolers is we've done it almost like a relay race, where I split them into 4 teams, and they have to run to the big shared compass and fill in their section with just one pen, and they have to relay. So the society team are running to write down something to do with society and fill it in. Because it's ridiculous, because it's not a race, because there's no winner. But it just was a fun way of filling it in. And then we all looked at the compass that they'd created with the words inside to see if we agreed. And so that generated this really great discussion of, oh, you know, you've put that in society, I think it belongs in economy. Or, oh, look, nature and well-being have both put water in their sections. Where does it really belong? Or can it go in the middle? Or so just, I think the compass tool is a really great conversation generator. And I think sometimes you just let kids go on it and be ready to clear up any misconceptions. But, you know, they can talk about things, they all have a starting point for each of those words, and kind of take it from there. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that little ones often make is they want to put animals into well-being because they want animals to be safe and well and happy, but actually animals belong in nature. So that's an interesting conversation to have. If you think about it as nature is one system, and then all the economy, society and well-being, they're actually all human things. So that's always worth remembering, but massive links back up to nature, because nature is the foundation of all those human systems. Without nature, the other systems don't exist. And I remember there was one, I was working with some grade 2s, and we did a big compass project on their snack bars, and we had all these arrows drawn on compasses, and we ended up having a big discussion, and this little grade 2 girl kind of put up her hand and said, so actually everything comes from nature, everything. Yes, my work is done. So she just had this massive aha moment that all of these other systems were reliant on nature.
I love that. I think that's something that, you know, it is the aha moment I've seen had with adults as well. It's not something that we necessarily remember, regardless of our age.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone else has any experiences with the compass with primary school. I know several of you have your own background with it. Maybe things you've tried or even challenges you've faced that we could talk about.
I have a question. I've just learned about the compass yesterday.
Perfect.
I don't know anything, but I really liked the example with the book that that Kath showed at the beginning, and I wondered if we could talk about some other examples of like more sort of narrowed specific ways to use the compass. So the last example kind of was a year-long project with thinking about all of the different categories in the compass and thinking about the school. But I wondered, can you use the compass with like a very specific topic? Let's say, you know, looking at plastic bags, or looking at something very specific, and then looking at the 4 compass points as sort of a perspective to go from. I wonder if anyone has some specific examples so I could imagine how I could use this in my class practically.
Well, actually, I don't teach in primary school or elementary, but I teach in high school. Elementary school has been not in my radar, but I teach Spanish, and I am a fan of getting rid of plastic in the world. So I put it as an example. And so when we go to environmental or whatever it is the topic, I put plastic in the center, and we go through a specific plastic. And so they just like explore every single point. And I ask them to go through all the 4 points of the compass. And then I asked them to go and explore a country. So they go to Colombia and Chile and start looking into all these, how it's affecting. So at the beginning I asked them, because they don't know, of course, they're exploring in Spanish. So I tell them to ask questions about each of the points. And then we'll just explore the campus, and then we go specifically into, for example, plastic or whatever the topic it is. But I like to put it there because I feel like, as we were saying before, everything is interconnected. So if you look at nature, you cannot let it be separated from society or from economy. So they realize that all of it. So I like to, every time I want or I see it fits, I put it very specifically, like plastic or even health. Sometimes I just put how health is seen in whatever country. And so, yes, it's very, very easy to make it. But I think that it's exploring first how you do it. So I've done it several times in Spanish. I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, I think you're right. Trying it out and using it, you become more and more confident as a facilitator, and you can picture how it could be used in different contexts and ideas, I guess. I think one idea to share is that grade 2 lesson that I was just talking about. With they were investigating a snack, so they all went trooped down to the supermarket and they bought a snack, and then they were using the compass to investigate their snack. So one kid had a little plastic tub of tomatoes, and another kid had one of those pack of 3 Oreo biscuits, and they used the compass to kind of unpack their snack. So I think you can put anything into the middle of a compass pretty much. You could compass a puddle if you wanted. Another point to make about the compass is it doesn't have to be this kind of fancy thing on a piece of paper. Even it could be a conversation. So once they're familiar with it as a tool, you can just have a conversation, and you're compassing kind of with the compass in your mind's eye. So we used to take our students down to the local food bank and soup kitchen and help prepare the food. And just as we were kind of peeling potatoes, we would have a conversation using the compass to frame that conversation about what they saw going on around them in the soup kitchen. I've had another conversation about the compass by just being on the beach and drawing a compass in the sand, and talking about the beach, but using the compass to frame the conversation. And they would run off and go and get little items from do a bit of driftwood here and a piece of plastic pollution there, and they'd put it on the compass, or words that they'd scrape into the sand. But the actual what they were producing wasn't important. It was the thinking and the discussion and the connections that they were making. But yeah, I think you can compass anything.
I love that you kind of had the compass to go, Kath. It's like you just had it in your pocket, like an actual compass wherever you went. So like Adriana, I'm a high school teacher. I'm not also a primary teacher, but I wanted to kind of highlight that Kath has talked about how you can put several different types of things in the middle of a compass. It can be an idea like health or plastic. It can be a thing, like you could literally give them a mug or a water bottle or a item, and you could talk about it. You can also put questions in the middle of the compass, so you can really approach it differently and say, like, what did we do today? And you could do that with the compass. So you can also put pictures in the middle of it. I like to do this. I think it's also useful for primary age students. You could start with images in a book. You could start with a picture from the news. I would do that a lot in geography, or even just watch a little video, watch a clip of something and assign kids to think from different perspectives and say, what did you notice in that video from these different compass perspectives? A lot of things can be points of kind of provocation with a compass.
Or the fridge. You put the fridge in the middle of it, and it would be so, like, it will open so many bags.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think the other point to make is that they might come across something where one of the wedges of the compass seems very empty, but that's also really great learning. Like, well, why is it empty? That leads to questions. So if they find that they've got an unbalanced looking compass, then that's going to raise questions to maybe go and explore, is this a gap in our knowledge? Do we need to go and find something out? Or is this, you know, something troubling going on in this particular system that maybe we need to tweak and change?
I'm just looking at the compass and thinking, I have a grade 4 class, and just thinking about the 4 points. And I can imagine that the point that would be difficult for my kids to probably come to terms with is economy, just because my kids seem to have different ideas about, even we're doing a unit now about sort of community and providing a service. And they have really interesting ideas about money and why people have money and what people use money for and how systems work like that. So I wonder if anyone's used the compass in primary and sort of seen which of the points, I don't know if I'm correct that the economy point would be a tricky one to deal with younger kids.
I think you'll definitely pick up misconceptions like you do with any thinking tool, I guess. But economy, I'm always surprised by how kind of in sync they are with it. I think like we all bring our own biases, don't we, to whatever we're doing. And I'm not a kind of, don't think about economy side of things very much. And so I presume that nobody does, but actually it's very much in our kids' world. You know, their parents do work. They do go to shops a lot. They do want to buy things that they see advertised on TV. And once they get talking about it, and it's the conversation that's important, I think. But within their world, I think with all of this work that we're doing, it's got to be within the right context. You know, they might have some words at grade 4 in their pocket that they don't really understand, and nor do I, like stocks and shares. But it's important to include those words that they've heard and say, yeah, that does belong in economy. That's where it belongs, and I think that's okay to have this kind of vague idea of what things mean and where they sit on the compass is okay at primary level, and as they move up through the grades, they'll get a deeper understanding of those different areas of the compass.
I wonder if they would be more empowered in grade 4 if they had had more exposure in the lower grades to the conversations about economy, and because then the ideas would be more at their cognitive level in grade 4. If they have to start with the beginning conversations, then you've got quite a long way to go.
And yeah, I think if it's just what they've gleaned as they've gone about their lives, then it's going to be uneven as well, isn't it? The understanding of what economy means. So it's a bit like everything that we're teaching.
But again, we live with economy all over. And for example, if we look at poverty, and we maybe show them a video of a group of musicians who are a poor community in Uruguay, I think it is, where they build instruments out of the recycling. So we show them that, and we tell them, well, they see that they are poor, and they're just enjoying music with that. That's a fascinating stimulus for them to see that, you know, like they're not only recycling, looking at music in a way, and just like maybe traveling the world. Oh my goodness. So there is so many connections, and these videos could be so, I don't know, intriguing for the kids as well. And you will see so many ideas coming out of that. And economy is easy when you are connecting the kids with other kids, you know, like the same age and things that they like, but in other contexts with recycling tools. What? Things like that are very interesting as well to trigger in the kids' minds.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I have never used a compass tool. In fact, in our school in grade 5, we are thinking that if we can use this tool for their exhibition. So I have a question, which is that if a child, so my grade 5 students, if they have never used this tool, I'm just thinking that will they be able to make those connections, you know, the connections of, you know, the 4 of them, or they will be at a point where they just come and they know what each one of them are, maybe they won't be able to make the connection. So, I mean, I don't know.
I think you'll find, and I've always found that through discussion, the connections become obvious. And if you just give kids, you know, get them to fill in their sections of the compass and then say, okay, here's a pen, make some connections for me. Kids naturally find connections. Kids are natural systems thinkers. They see, I think we tend to put things into subjects, you know, history, maths, science, but kids, especially in primary school, don't do that because that's not how their world is operating. And I think if you said to kids, okay, now draw some lines to show how things are connected around the compass, I think you'd probably find that they would. I think sometimes, depending on what they've done before, drawing all over, like messy lines all over a compass can be hard. But I think if you say it's okay, you can make a mess, just show your thinking. This isn't best copy or anything, it's not going to go on the wall, just show your great thinking, then they'll go for it. But I think a little bit of practice beforehand definitely means that they're more comfortable to do that, and modeling as well.
On that great note about how kids are so good at making connections, I'm gonna actually wrap us up because we're almost at 45 minutes. But before we let you all go and say thank you, I wanted to share a couple of other resources and opportunities that are coming up. And I know a couple of you are new to the Compass. So one thing I do want to highlight as I pull up a slide with some opportunities on here is we actually have a free introduction to the Sustainability Compass that's coming out at the end of the month. So if you want to learn more about it and see some more examples, that'll be based on our website, and it should be available by the end of February. We also have several other opportunities, both free and more course-like if you're interested. So one of those is actually a short, quick course on young systems thinkers that Kath has helped put together on using the Sustainability Compass and some other systems thinking tools, specifically with students early years through grade 5. So that'll be available later this month. And if you're interested in knowing more, you can shoot me a message in the chat. We also have other community chats like this, and if you want, we can talk more about primary specific things or explaining the compass. I'm gonna send out a quick little poll actually in a minute where you can tell me if that's something you're interested in. Our next chat though in a couple of weeks is gonna be on a different systems thinking tool, the Iceberg, with Lawrence Myers. And if you wanna learn more about systems thinking overall, the compass, tons more tools, and connect with a global cohort with a facilitator to support you, we also have a 7-week facilitated course that we run online right now. Kath is one of our facilitators. And the next one of those is going to be starting in April. So if you're interested in any of those, you can let me know. But at the moment, I'm just gonna share this little poll. If you could tell me what else you might wanna chat about in the future, I would love to know what you're interested in. You can also send it in the chat to me personally or to everyone and let us know what you'd like to know more about. Are there topics you want us to explore, subject specific or co-curricular? If enough people are interested, we'll try to get one in the future. And if you have ideas or experiences, maybe you even would want to let me know you want to host one of these and share a story, because it's really great to see so many faces, and we really appreciate you coming out today. Thanks so much, Kath, for sharing.
You're welcome.
Any last thoughts to wrap us up?
From me?
Yeah.
No, just it's great to see you all, and yeah, try it out, see how you go, let us know.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking some time today, and please don't hesitate to email me. You have my email, or to reach out if you have questions or you want to know more. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.